doors out, taking windows out, and now you're inside the house.
Or you're putting up temporary partition walls
And that's a number that's really hard to get a lot of times. That's the one that really makes the difference. And you know, I tell people, you know, if I'm building a 2-car garage in the field, you know, it might be $100 a square foot. Drag it up to the house, it's now 150. And if I got access from inside the house, it's 175. I mean, it's because there's just so much more to it.
Exactly. That's America.
I have so many things I could say. I'm going to try to pick the highlights. One, I think, Robert, you've told me before that you're still using an article I wrote years back on the hidden cost of remodeling. If anybody's interested in that, I'll be glad to send you a copy of that. And I don't know, I hope Victor won't get as upset at this, but we've been working together for about 18 years, and I've been helping Victor estimate his projects for that long.
So you can verify he's the most expensive.
She's the reason.
Only after those cabinets come in.
Wait a minute.
The most expensive one in town.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, the reason I bring that up is because Victor's right on about when he talks to the clients about having are your plans done yet? Because plans and a written scope of work are critical for pricing. In commercial construction, they will have all that information up ahead of time, and that's why they can get pre-qualified bids to bid on projects. That's why that process works the way it does. In home renovation, home remodeling, even new homes, we don't operate that way. However, my company, in the accessibility realm of consulting, I do a plan. Granted, my projects are the bathroom size, the kitchen size, not huge. Some have been, but not huge, usually. So having a plan and a written scope of work allows 3 bids to be obtained. And that's what I do for my clients. And I have those on a spreadsheet also, and I'm glad to talk to anybody in here about the difference and the variation in the bids, the numbers, and I don't assign any builders' names to them, you know, when I share the pricing information. That's all confidential information, but the spreads between those bids are huge sometimes because there are so many factors that enter into pricing a remodel project. And each company's labor prices, their overhead prices, all of that is really what varies. The material costs, they often are what are more consistent than anything. The labor, overhead, logistics, distance from your office, all those factors enter into pricing all your jobs. Now we'll be quiet. Thanks.
Thank you
for letting me speak.
Yes, Rick.
Just a couple of observations, and might be triggered some of this is, you know, I don't pretend to be a remodeler or a builder, but when it comes to how these things are bid, from our view, when a client comes in that one of the builders has sent in to us, and they have an allowance, how that allowance is, you know, brought up into their bid, really. When we just had somebody come in, it's a 24,000 square foot home, and their cabinet allowance was $70,000. And we just said, you know, you don't want to throw the builder under the bus, but that's just not going to happen.
It's unrealistic.
It is. It's
so,
you know, and so, you know, if you go by like an NKBA, you know, standard, and it all depends on is it a tract home, is it a custom home. And then what these guys have to deal with is the taste of the customer. And you know your customer, and I'm assuming that goes partially into your bid. But 3% to 12% of the selling price of that home should be in your bid for cabinetry alone. On a typical home that has, you know, kitchen, laundry, bathrooms, you know, the standard, you know, rooms. But I feel for you guys with trying to come up with a number And in my little world, my niche of cabinetry, you have to know, first of all, do they want to spend some money? What's their taste? What genre are they going to be in? That changes the number dramatically, the genre they're going to be in. And it's a difficult task. What I know that I can probably speak for all of the subs that have to go through an allowance meeting with these clients is when you give an allowance, let them know that you may be able to go less, but you certainly can go more. And depending on your choices, these numbers are probably going to change once you get to the design process with the specialist.
What was that number, Rick? 10 to 12? 10 to 20? You said
3 to 12%.
And here's another thing that I'll tell you is 3% is, now I'm talking in mid to higher end, the custom builds or remodels. That definitely should be in place for remodels. But we have million plus homes that have a 1% or 1.5% allowance for cabinetry. And the client just gets, I can't tell you how many times we sit with a client and they say, I can't believe he did that to me, meaning the builder. And you should know that. They get upset, trust me.
They want to get the job.
All day, every day, we've done thousands of jobs like this.
There's your extras.
And they get, I'm not saying anything there, I'm just letting you know what we experienced. And that is when a client wants what they want, and it's double their allowance, they get pretty upset. And it's not something I'm doing, it's just, we can reach your budget, but this is what you can do, and they don't like that most of the time.
Well, I was gonna say, that article that you had there, Paul, there's also an app for that, okay, that will give you the average cost nationwide based on your locale, on what certain, and we use that for time, and the owner goes, well, I don't want to spend that, well, right here tells you, Orlando says, this 12 by 20 bedrooms, you want to call
I'm
it.
not making that up. Yeah.
It's not out of my hands, I mean, I didn't pull it out, so.
I gotta interject one more thing that I forgot. That ROI report, I look at it every year too, but I can tell you this, that number can be so different for so many people, because if somebody chooses something that is really out of trend,
Right.
they're not gonna get a return no matter what they do, because whoever comes in isn't gonna like it.
Right.
If somebody puts purple cabinets in their kid's bathroom, it's gonna get changed out, and people are gonna beat you up over it.
Yeah.
And so the ROI thing is, and the same thing with the numbers they give you for, and again, my world, the kitchen numbers they give you, the average price of a remodel, it's crazy that they can put those numbers in there because they're so low, it doesn't make sense. The average price of a kitchen remodel in our world here is not $12,000, and that's in that book. Sometimes I don't understand that remodeling magazine and what numbers are they looking at. And I know it's all calculated by bean counters, but you know what? They need to look at the real world, because a lot of times people get the wrong impression by those reports. I'm sorry to take so much time.
I always have to say what I'm saying, I've seen that out of that magazine, and that to me is a bunch of hogwash out. I've seen them online. Not one of that has ever pertained to anything that I have done, and while I do think the TV thing gets them back to us because they realize how difficult it is, but to compete with that is a joke. But Mike, I would say when you guys as a designer that go out to these jobs, what I try to do is give a big spread. And I'm not talking about your cost, I'm talking about the construction, I'm not talking about the architect's cost. Because no man, they're going to come on out, and they're going to see you, and they're going to tell you how much for their cost. And I really try to stay away from what you guys like to charge or want to be at. But when you go out and they're forcing your hand on the construction costs, and where you try to be, I mean, as I take a look at any of this stuff in here, I try to go big. I actually try to go bigger and come up with a lower figure and a bigger figure. And I may say like 150 to 300. I don't really know. Right now we're 300 to 500. I don't really know, but I know this. I've never done one for less than 300, and they've gone above. But you got to give them something that will tantalize them, that will kind of keep them going a little bit. But I also encourage every single one of them to start with the plans, crawl before you walk. go up and get a little sketches going, get these guys, get the ideas down, because anybody can tell you whatever they want, raise all their hands up all they want, but until you start getting down, then the builders that take it more serious, and then that 100 that should have been 350, all of a sudden now it's about 350, and all of a sudden they are come or gone or whatever. So my only advice for y'all, you designers, is I would say a minimum of 200 to 300 a foot, and if it has to be by the foot thing, if it has to be. But besides, and I don't know if y'all have this same list as by these bathrooms and all that, but let's say a 3,000 square foot home, complete renovation, that's what that thing, I mean, that's got it. I mean, with cabinets and all, that's got to be starting at 500,000, 400,000. That ain't a $200,000 deal. At the world I live in, you know, they're not going back in with Home Depot floors, they're going back with everything, the good stuff. So when you start talking about all these other major additions, 1,000 foot or 8, because nothing is clean. There's nothing that's clean. The septic's in the way, the sewer, I don't care, something's in the way, or a bathroom's got to go to get to it. But any of that 1,000 foot, 800 foot stuff, that's at least 200 and up. You follow me? 200,000, not 200.
I was just gonna say also from
200,000 up.
200,000.
from the design side as well, I've worked with clients before, and the first thing we say, hey, even as we start talking about the program, what's your budget? Sometimes they don't tell us what the budget is.
Well, they're scared.
They're scared because you're gonna go down that line.
Right, so
They're afraid.
if they
Less
see
than that,
you
you're
interview,
gonna
and you
say-
see, you know, the simple, they want simple things, they want high end, you gotta get a little feel for that. And if you're done designing something, keeping it schematic, you know, then they say, well, how much is that gonna cost me? I'm not even gonna measure it, yes, because I don't know. Because they're gonna come back to me and say, Tony says that this is gonna be, $100,000 remodel at whatever per square foot, but it's really 250,000. You know, we don't know, but we can have some guidance just from what they're looking for in terms of size and level of finish. I know, but I've been doing it for so many years, you know, I don't think anybody should go beyond the schematic without bringing a builder in and just doing a design build, because you're not gonna get good pricing on anything. Of course, we had the clients before where they say, okay, do a set of drawings, and I'm gonna send it out to bid and get 3 different, it's not the same thing, you just can't do that. And my question to the panel is, have you gotten in that position before where you've received a full set of construction drawings and say, okay, you're one of 3 bidders, give me your best price? Well, what do you do when all 3 bidders it's more than what their budget is?
It usually is. Usually when you have that situation, I've had people say, Jack, you're like the 4th builder I've been to. You're all saying the same thing.
So what's the problem? No problem there. The problem is your designer designed something. We throw those guys under the bus and say, man, if you worked with us hand in hand, we could have value engineered your job as we designed it.
No, y'all destroyed the job. It was designed right. They didn't have the.
That's right. They never had enough money in the front
But
end.
any successful project can have some budget guidance as the design develops, whether it be pick and finishes, specs, or, you know, in terms of.
And that's hard. My analogy is, okay, there's a grocery cart full of groceries, how much does it cost? Depends on what you put in it.
So, Tony, I think any one of us here could
But the
probably,
base price is.
I think any one of us here could look at a schematic that you presented and in 5 minutes say, this is a $200,000 to $300,000
Yeah,
job.
because you have that experience. And I work with a lot of production builders who could do the same thing. We built the same $5 a square foot, $5 a square foot. Okay, because every production house has so many windows, so much roof, they can get an average on that. But custom and remodel is just that. It's so custom and it's so remodel, you don't know.
And if you really want to blow their mind, bring an interior designer into it.
It's like saying, saying to someone, hey, nice car, how much did you pay per pound for that car?
Or per square foot. A Ferrari's a little more than a Chevy. Per square foot.
Because that happens a lot, where somebody says, they're getting 3 quotes. Do you guys charge for your quotes? Because it takes a lot of work to give somebody a price.
Yeah, well,
And do they, and how do you walk them through
well, if
that?
Tony's analogy, if someone came to me and said, would you bid this, here's a set of plans, I'm getting 3 bidders, I won't do it. I know, because I'm not, because all they're looking for is a number. And
Cheapest price.
Yeah, and especially in a renovation, it's so, I mean, you're invading their house, you're dealing with them on a daily basis. It's not like a new custom home where they might come out once a week and then you're not there. I mean, I would, and yes, if they wanted me, I would charge it, and I had a client call me, and he just sends a planned email, and he said, my budget's 500,000, beautiful job, and I could tell it was every bit of 700,000, he says, I want to get bids on it. And I circumvented through who the lead came from, and he was just shopping numbers. So had I bid that, I would have put 40 hours into it just to be a number, and I know I'm not going to get that job.
You're not gonna get it.
Yeah, because he was just looking, he already made up his mind who he wanted to use. The person he wanted to use he thought was hot, so he just, I'm going to shop the number. And I think all of these guys
And
do
too
the
many
same.
times.
Yeah.
I think that we all suffer from some form of manipulation on the part of the client. We get a number, we get a budget, and then the builder gets a budget. And then it's not consistent, but we knew from the beginning, and you knew from the beginning, the client plays that to their advantage.
Right.
Typically,
And then
I
also,
just let them deal with the builder, that's their job.
and you never know,
Yeah.
I can't control.
Your price is your price.
you never know what the owner
I
really
can tell
is.
them, call to a builder, that's what you have to do.
What they really want to spend their money on. Some may be passionate about windows, some may be passionate about the cabinets,
Right.
the trim work. I mean, I'll give numbers, I'm thinking, I would do this, and they say, yeah, let's go ahead and let's do this.
Thank you.
So, Jack, so going back, what do you do, like, if you're the fourth bidder, and he's got a set of plans done, and all four bidders are saying, well, this far exceeds your budget, what do you do with that? Do you send them back to the architect to redesign it at that point, or do you try to work with what they've got and do, bid portions of it, or in phases, or how do you handle it?
I suggest they do what you said earlier, kind of drop back and regroup, because at that point, there's no way you can take enough things out to get that $400,000 job to 250. It's just not physically possible. So they basically prioritize. I go back and say, when you first went in and spoke to Tony, what were you looking for? Because when you start watching these shows, you start doing, the projects tend to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we went from the master bedroom suite, now we upgraded the kitchen while we were there with cabinets, and then we went ahead and did the interior design, and we repaint the inside of the house. And next thing you know, we go from 200 to 400, and then the job goes away.
Yeah.
So I always sit there and say, where were you when we started? Let's go back and revisit that, because we always document that. First thing, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah, 'cause I think it's a complete waste of time for anybody to go through a full set of
It's huge.
sheets and not have
Yeah.
a budget check right off the get-go.
And you got all the different quality of trades, I mean, from painters to the cabinets, to the Home Depot, to what, the quality that Rick puts in. They're huge, but a lot of people don't see or don't understand that. Rick and I are working on a job right now, doing a phenomenal job on the cabinets, and the homeowner, I said, we're gonna be here 3 to 4 months. And they said, how can it be 3 to 4 months? So I started outlining, well, I'm taking walls out, I'm moving plumbing, I'm ripping up the floors, I'm doing all of these things. And, it's all got to be done in sequence. And they never believed me. We've been there every day now for 3.5 months. And they start to realize, wow, I guess there is more that goes into it. So,
419 Julio Road. I pass your sign every day, is that job?
no.
He goes, there ain't nobody there, how come?
That's another question. Is there a contingency percentage that you would suggest? Like, if you go for $100,000 budget, would you say that 20% would be for unexpected, or, unpredictable?
That's a great question. What I do when I meet with clients, I said, visualize this, have 2 checking accounts.
Yeah,
Have one checking account for that $100,000 project, and then have a second checking account for
unpredictable.
unknown and things you want to add. Now, what should that be, 5, 10, 15, or 20? It really depends upon the house you're looking at. Was the house professionally built and not renovated by handymen? Is the house, new enough where most of the items are somewhat still code compliant, or is this a,
But I guess I was wondering, with your experience of many jobs, I'm sure there is a percentage that you go over.
They go over
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's usually between 20 and 40, or 15 and went by? Like, is there a number that you could tell me?
Well, I mean, a lot of that is client driven. I mean, I like to think that I go in there and do a lot of research on the front end. I mean, if you suspect that the wall is load bearing, you're gonna have the engineer come out and determine whether it is. If you think there's plumbing in there, all of that is worked out prior to writing a final contract number. That number should be low. What could drive it up are the people's choices. If they say, think, okay, my budget is $50,000 for cabinets, and they've already gone in and looked at cabinets, but now they go to 75, then they go from 25,000 on appliances to 50. That could drive it up. So a lot of that part, there's kind of two separate numbers there. One is the unforeseen, which, I mean.
But in your experience, because I'm working on a job that I know it's going to go probably over by $100,000. It's a big job. And I was talking to the builder, he's like, 150, and we're just joking about it. And it made me wonder, there has to be some sort of reference over the years that you ran into, and you said, typically, we're gonna go 30% over, or 20% over, knowing what the client, even though you have the plans, even though, you
If that
have
was the
all the
case,
reference points.
the number wouldn't be 100, it would
They
be
always go
130.
over, right.
I would set the number, have I had jobs where I was actually under budget? Yeah. Do they know that? No. I do. Because I made more money. But I worked the job, so.
I guess the question is, do you consistently go over between 20 and 40%?
Usually I don't, no.
No, we don't.
Unless it's,
I'd have a lot of
That's
pissed
not
off
what she's
people.
asking.
That's
That's
not
not
what
what
I'm asking.
you're asking.
Your experience
All
has
in,
shown.
what you're asking is all in, cabinet, the owner's making all the upgrades that they could, on an average, what are we seeing after they upgrade the
Exactly,
house, top and all that?
exactly.
And I would have to say that's a good 20%.
20, yeah.
So if you got $1 million job, they went over a couple $100,000, 150
Right.
grand.
One of the,
So maybe a contingency account would be 20%. And that would give them, I don't know, I'm just trying to.
You talking about a whole house
It's
remodel?
the type of thing that you
Whole house remodel?
Right,
Yeah.
If
the
you
whole
would always
project.
get into that, again, I think with the designers, it's a little trickier.
Yeah, it is.
Because you got up today to go make some money and do drawings. And you're not gonna do it if you keep poo-pooing it and you're gonna tell them it's 300 or 400 when they're looking for 100. I think you all just have to figure a way to give them a big spread, and this is what I think. If you want, I'll call a builder friend of mine and we'll come visit. Or we can go ahead and get started on some preliminary schematics, drawings, whatever you call it. And that's what I always encourage. So we don't know anything. Just get your plans going, and it may take a month, 2 months, whatever it takes. But you get it, and he'll charge you fairly, or you tell him what your services are gonna be, and you get into it. But as a designer, y'all get into too much of the money up front. I think it just hurts you. First of all, you have to get money today, and you're not gonna get the job, and then no one's gonna get it, and a lot of times, they will come up with the money. Those ones that were 400, you're 100 over, and everybody's all 100 over, now you're the fourth one to tell them, kind of, sort of, or whatever. Well, they're so stunned by it, or whatever, now they're saying, well, maybe I can figure a way to get around this, and not go back down to 250. And I found my clients, when we commonly have done that, or been around that, said, well, you drew this, like you said, you drew this, this is what you really wanted. So can you live with it by half an hour? Well, not really, okay, let's scrap the whole thing, let's not do it. Wait a minute. And then all of a sudden, now the back, maybe that 400 doesn't sound so bad after all, or whatever the figure is, but as far as the designers going out and all that, I'd go low, I'd go high, that's my best advice I can give you. Telling the homeowner this, and at 100, 200, I know a number of architects will always go high on the per square foot business, because God almighty, how do you know if they're going to do white, Greek Dutchess marble through the whole thing? You know that? I mean, I've been surprised by that many times where, upgrades that were pretty good, and of course by that time it's already out of your hands when the finishes are going. You could have said, I don't know, $2 a foot stuff, but I'd go low, go high, and make sure you get those plans going. That's how you keep your foot in the door, and you go to an engineer set of plans at the end of the job, you get fulfilled, but you get the whole, get the job from there. Tony.
Thank you.
Not to change the subject, but I have a quick question for all you panelists, because one of the national design trends I'm seeing nationally in custom remodel, whatever, is more and more home technology that's getting incorporated into our, are you guys seeing that? Can you validate that here in the Central Florida area that more homeowners are asking for and paying for more home automation electronics?
Growing costs.
Or AD.
I think so, yeah. Just technology, there's a lot more out there, just the prices are coming down, and, you know, that's one good thing about these TV remodeling shows, they introduce some of these products and get people excited about it. So we're doing more media rooms and more electronic systems, and we're doing the alarms that you can use your phone and change the temperature of the.
It's interesting because, I'm sorry, just 1 second, because I've seen it in cars. You saw the Super Bowl ads, and you see these cars now. And even the Hyundai, some of the lower budget cars are coming out with the navigation systems and everything else. And what they call infotainment, you know, I mean, it's got radio and audio and everything else. But I'm trying to see when that's actually going to start to become more mainstream in our homes, especially for homeowners who have had an older home and they've got cable jacks and that's about it. And now, are they upgrading to different wiring and systems?
I'm not seeing a whole lot of it because everything now is wireless. People are walking around with their, and they want to be able to have it and take it out of their home, take it here, take it there. Everything's wireless, even, you know, yeah, I mean, it truly is, you know, are they wanting to turn the lights on and do all this other stuff from their phone? Yes, there is that technology, and is it that big of a deal to some people? Some people that are into that, but most of them don't. Even if it was more cost effective than it used to be,
Yeah.
it's not that big a deal. Unless somebody's got money and they just want to
Bob?
spend it.
Yeah.
They want to open the garage door.
Bob will answer that.
Okay, the 30 years that I've been here in Orlando, working in construction, in the beginning, we had maybe 10% in automation. We concentrate primarily on the upper end homes. When we started out, 300,000 was an upper end home. Now, $1.5 million to 2 million is an upper end home for most of our projects that we work on. So from the 10% people that were interested in it, we have probably 80% now that want to get into some sort of automation. 80%. Yeah.
But that's 80% in $1.5 million and up.
Well, what we're finding is that we have a lot of the retail trade now wanting to get those same types of features. And this is spurred on by Bright House advertising on TV. So what we're doing is we're finding other products that get down to the average price range customer, the $150,000 to $400,000 price range. And we can literally do an automation system which used to cost $30,000 for about $10,000 now. And we can put a lot of these automation elements into a home for as little as $2,000.
A lot of them are expandable now as well.
They are, and because they're wireless, we can add them in very easily. It doesn't have to be a major project to get wire from one place to the other. We just go in and set up a new wireless network, and it works, I can't say flawlessly, but it works probably 99% of the time.
I'm seeing a lot more of it.
Is there a percentage of the budget that you can say as a rule of thumb, just like Rick's 13% cabinets?
Well, in the high-end home, we used to say 5%. So if it was $1 million home, we would say probably $50,000 would be the minimum to get into some form of automation. But nowadays, we can probably do it for 3%. And I think depending on the price range that you're designing the home for, we can probably do it, again, starting from about $2,000 for pathway lighting, a couple of thermostats, and then we go to cameras and other things. It just depends on where they want to end up.
John, I have a question. Yeah, first a comment. I like how you talked about when you're doing an addition or remodel where you're tying into existing and the difference between a home that was built in the 50s versus a home that was built in the 90s and the you know, being code compliant. That's huge for us as far as windows go and preserving the water barrier and keeping water out of the house when people change their windows. My question though is, when you're doing a home that was pre-1978, how often are you finding lead-based paint in the home that's got to be dealt with? And are you finding out that as soon as you mention that to customers, they're totally freaked out about it?